In a world of thin-skinned knife makers and thick-as-heck edges, four losers who met on a Discord server embark on a journey into the world of knives. Introducing your hosts, Brian Kim, Jacob Bolduck, Vex, and the Lizard Man. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Behind the Edge podcast. I'm Brian, and I am joined by my co-hosts. Introduce yourselves, guys. In whatever order.
I am Echo Gecko. Also, I'm known as u/Echo Gecko 4 on Reddit. I am an administrator in the Knife Club Discord server. I own a smaller knife collection than most of my peers, but I've been collecting for over 2 years now. So it's a pleasure to be on this podcast, and I look forward to it, guys.
My name is Jacob. Jacob Bolduck, full name on Reddit and stuff like that. I run a small YouTube channel, Jake's Take, and I have way too many knives. I've been collecting for also about 2 years, and look forward to this podcast.
My name is Vex, Vextos on every social media, and I've been collecting seriously for about 3 or 4 years now, and I need to cut back on that now, so yeah.
I think we all do.
Oh man, I mean, I don't need to cut back. I'm pretty controlled.
Yeah, well, you are kind of controlled, Brian. You don't have that many knives.
In my own way. They don't survive long. But anyway, my name is Brian. I introduced myself before, and I am a custom knife maker. I've been collecting for about 6 years now. I had like a 2-year break period, but I'm back to collecting again. And we're all just really excited to bring you some sort of different knife content. I'm going to really quickly go over the format of the podcast. Basically, we're going to talk about upcoming knife news. We're going to talk about a knife collecting topic, a knife making topic that is related to the collecting topic, sometimes a guest topic if we have a guest, and then we'll answer some questions from the viewers. We're not going to strictly follow that format for this episode because we want to get a little more in depth on who we are. But I think, do you guys want to start talking with the upcoming news, or do you want to, introduce yourselves during the knife collecting topic, or how you got into that then? What do you think?
I think we should start with how we got into collecting and kind of go back on, more about ourselves first, and then we will move on to news.
Sure.
So I'll start, actually. So I've been collecting for about 2 years, and I began with a Leatherman Crater 33 little pocket knife that I bought off of Amazon for like $20, which is kind of a scam now. I feel like I almost feel like I spent too much on that little knife. But it was 440C, I think, and it was all right. It had a carabiner on it, but that is kind of how I began collecting, and from there I kind of moved on to CRKT, and I got a CRKT Crawford Casper, and then ended up with a CRKT Tirade, which is a button lock Brian Ty design knife, and then from there I moved on to a Paramilitary 2, and then a Mannix, and now I have an assortment of different ZTs and Spydercos and Benchmates, and most recently a Real Steel Metamorph, which is what I've been carrying lately the most. So that's kind of how I got into collecting, and where I am now. So anyone else can tell their story.
Was anyone else like furiously Google searching the names of those CRKTs? It's like I don't know any CRKT knives. I just never.
I had to
bought
look
them.
up the Crater. I was like, "What the heck is that?"
Yeah. CRKT. They've got some good designs, but I just can't. I can't buy their knives anymore. I just
yeah.
They do some cool stuff, but I kind of like I'm more higher end now,
Yeah,
and plus,
I feel that.
Plus the steel, they use a lot of 8CR 13 MOV, and I'm more of a minimum D2 kind of guy now. So personally,
yeah, I feel that.
So we can get into steel snob topics later, I think, but
for sure. Who wants to go next?
I can go, I guess. So I had a pretty rough mall ninja phase throughout like middle school. Um, that died off pretty quickly, as you can imagine. But I always had kind of like cheaper gas station pocket knives growing up. For my birthday one year, though, my now wife, her stepdad got me a Attack Force Speedster,
Dang.
which was, yeah, to me that was like a super nice knife at the time. So I had that for a while. The pocket clip snapped off, like literally just broke off. So I was like, okay, let's go up a little bit. So I went on Amazon warehouse deals and found a bird finch, super tiny little lockback knife, and it kind of went from there. My first somewhat high end knife after that was a Kaiser Klecker Compact, which no one has probably ever heard of, and it's just kind of gone from there. Now I have, God, I don't know, maybe like 40 knives. I really don't count. I
You
don't keep up.
have some like mid-techs and maybe a custom, don't you? Or just
I
mid-techs?
don't have any customs. Probably the highest end stuff I have, my Millet Torrent,
Right.
which I love to death. Spyderco Python. I'm leaning more towards that at this point, like that.
That
Right
like
around 300 to 400 range.
that production mid-tech type.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because the quality is really good, but the price jump's kind of hard. I think most people, at my point, like 2 years in, are kind of at the higher end production. Not like Rockstead or anything, but
Right.
like,
Well, yeah,
like
if I
Lee
was
and Riot and stuff.
if I had the money, I would be more leaning towards I just really like Olamics for some reason. God, like I love the Busker and the
I want a
Wayfarer.
Whippersnapper really bad.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's kind of where
we'll
I
see.
lean towards. So Vex, what how'd you get into collecting?
I feel like most people, I started out with the really bad mall ninja knives. Like my first knife I remember buying was like a Strider knockoff, literally at a mall, and I loved that thing, and I carried it all the time. I was probably like 10 years old. But my first real good knife was a Kershaw Blur at Walmart. Tonto, serrated edge, of course. Then when I got into high school, I kind of got back into knives, like sophomore year. I think with the money I saved up, I bought a Spyderco Sage 1, and that blew me away just because it was way better than everything else I've tried. Then after that, I kind of went to the stereotypical knife collector knives, like the 940, then the PM2, and just all the not hype knives, but
The
the
basics.
the basics, the classics.
Yeah, the classics is a good word. Like the PM2, I feel like everyone or
Yeah,
the PM2 or the Mannix or the 940 dash 2 or dash 1 or just the regular 940. I feel like everyone kind of graduates towards that.
yeah,
I
because
skipped
that's
over all of those.
dang.
All right, so I'll go next.
Yep.
Basically, I am Korean, so that meant that my childhood was completely devoid of knives. I think most people don't know that, but Koreans are really they think that only gangsters use knives.
Really?
I don't know if you've
That's interesting.
heard that before, but yeah, so they
Brian's a
think that
gangster
like
confirmed.
the word for gangster in Korean is gangpe. And so my mom would always be like, put that knife away, stop being a gangpe. So I'd be like, all right, well, no knives for me. So I didn't really get into knives at all until really late, until I was about 17 in high school. And that's because my other friend, who actually ironically is also Korean but doesn't listen to his parents, he got into knives, and he showed me his Kershaw Leak, which is like one of the biggest introductory knives, I guess, for most people. So I got the Kershaw Leak, and I was like, wow, this is really neat. And then he showed me his Benchmade Griptilian at the same time, and I was like, that's even more neat. So I bought the Leak first on Amazon, and after about a week, I was like, I think I want the Benchmade. Like the Leak is cool, but I was like, the Benchmade is kind of cooler. So I bought the Benchmade, and then I think in about like, I don't know, a month or so, I bought a Sabenza.
Oh wow.
Jeez, man.
Dang.
Because the reason is because one, I had spare money because I don't buy anything other than knives and knife related stuff. I've never bought my own clothes ever in my entire life.
Jeez.
I subsist completely off of like birthday present clothes and like Christmas present clothes.
No,
So
I can understand that because you know, I go to a university, and my wardrobe, I have probably like 15 or 20 university shirts that I've just gotten for free, and that's all I wear. You know.
Yeah, and people are like, "Oh yeah, you're repping that," you know.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
understand.
So I had the disposable income, and my friend kept buying all this stuff and showing them to me, and I was like, I need to have that too because it's awesome. So I had my Sebenza, which spoiled me because if you have a Sebenza around a month into knife collecting, and then you start like looking at CRKTs, it's not that it's just like it's really hard to go backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you? What did you get? Like, what job did you do to have all that? Was that just birthday money, or did you have a job?
It was a mixture of. I mean, I don't have an official job. It was like tutoring.
Okay. Well,
Which,
that's, you know.
if you know how like tutoring pays in the Los Angeles area, it's kind of insane. So I'd get like $50 an hour. So after 6 hours, I bought a Sebenza, and I was like, okay, I have a Sebenza now.
That's crazy.
So it was literally like a month and a half of work, right? Because I'd do like an hour a week,
Right.
in between school and whatever, and then I just had the Sebenza money. So
Mhm.
dropped that, got my small Sebenza, and from then on, it just only escalated. I kind of refined my tastes a little bit, and now I know exactly what I want. So, I have like the Shiro, I have the Techno 2. So those kind of like titanium frame locks usually, like a Sebenza. So I sort of got my tastes down, I guess.
So, how did you get into knife making? Where does that jump in?
Oh man, that was after I jumped. I want to say a couple years later, I bought an Andre Thorburn
Mm-hmm.
custom knife. That was like $825 or something.
Oh, God.
And when when I had that knife, I thought to myself, okay, this isn't sustainable anymore because I was in college and I wasn't really making money anymore, and I was like, okay, this just isn't going to happen anymore. So I thought to myself, okay, well, what if I made my own knives? Like, could I ever? I don't know. I was sort of very long-term thinking, but I was like, man, way into the future, if I made my own knives, I could just make my own, like, Andre Thorburn style, like, really nice knife, maybe.
Yeah, because your pricing is way more generous than a $800 Andre
Oh,
Thorburn.
yeah.
But I definitely thought to myself, like, it's obviously, if you have the tools and the ability, then it is cheaper to make your own custom knife, obviously, than to buy one.
For someone to make your own custom knife, then yeah, because you're only paying for the cost of materials. I mean, you're not paying yourself for the labor.
Exactly. So, and labor is the most of the cost. So.
Yeah, right. That's that's going to be most where your profit's going to lie. But obviously,
Right.
when you're making yourself a knife, that's not the profit is your knife that you made for yourself.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So
I also had a lot of spare time, but I'm not going to get into why yet.
Yeah.
Maybe.
no,
yeah.
we can go into that later. I think maybe now is a good chance to segue into knife news and maybe upcoming knives and past knives have come out in the past 6 months, and also the Crew Carta debacle that happened just a few days ago. So I personally did not really. It wasn't a Spyderco Shaman Crew Carta
Yeah.
sprint. I personally do not like the Spyderco Shaman. It's not it's too big for me. I just
I
don't.
mean, you're wrong, but
I'm more of a
It's okay
more
to
of a
be wrong.
Mannix. I'm more of a Mannix type of guy. So that's just But I know a lot of people really cared about that getting that knife, and I think it's one of the quickest sprint runs that have sold out in recent memory. So do you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
want to share? I don't know if any of you guys went out and tried. I think Jacob probably tried to get one.
so when it dropped, I was actually on a plane back from Europe, like when it dropped. So I had a couple other people in the Discord looking for me, and neither one of them could get it because allegedly it sold out in a little under 10 seconds. I think one person from our Discord group.
Yeah. Carbodize is
Yeah.
the only person from our Discord that got it.
Lucky.
1 out of 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we should give people some context. So basically, Spyderco makes production knives. And in this case, the production model is called the Shaman. And what they do is they do something called sprint runs where they change the handle material and the blade steel, and everything else is the same. Okay, so the base model is exactly the same.
Yeah, it's the same design, but with different, more exclusive materials.
Right,
exclusive,
exactly.
usually exclusive to certain stores. So that type of thing.
So in this case, it was a version sprint run that was being sold by Cutlery Shop, and this one we call it the Crew Carta because the steel is called Crewware, and they changed from G10 handle scales to micarta, so it's Crew Carta. But the thing about this is it is like only for people who care about premium materials, right? If you don't care about having the best knife steel or the nicest feeling handle material, then it doesn't really matter to you that much. But it matters a lot to us because we're like that.
Well, yeah, we're like, wow, that's a really cool collector's item, and we're collectors at heart, So that's when we see that, we're like, wow, that's cool. That's a cool steel. That's a cool material. I want that.
I genuinely want it for like a really a somewhat high end like beater knife.
Right.
I want to try Crewware for a while, and micarta is probably one of the best materials out there, especially if you're actually working with it.
Right.
So and the regular Shaman, I've tried it. I like the ergonomics and stuff, but the materials, specifically the G10, just isn't for me. And if you buy aftermarket micarta scales, you're moving that $200 knife up to like $300, and this is $208 for a pretty good steel and reasonable handle material.
And that's great. And for $208, it's still an expensive knife, and it's crazy how fast that sold out. I mean, the closest knife I think that I bought the 20CV DLT PM2 sprint run, and that sold out in like a minute and a half. So to think of a sprint run selling out in literally less than a minute, let alone less than 30 seconds, is absolutely insane.
It's depressing.
It is depressing. Just wait until the scalpers get it.
I know. And those are
$400.
Right. So those are the two interesting topics about this. I think is one like the scalpers and the secondary market pricing, which Jacob just said is $400 on eBay right now.
Right.
And so whether like I already know your guys' opinions, but we should sort of share that since obviously anyone who's listening doesn't know us. What are your opinions on the secondary market values of the Crew Carta?
Well, a lot of people. So there's two in r/knife swap, right? And this is where I sell my knives and where I buy my knives for the most part. I think most of the people there are split 50-50 almost completely, right? And one side says, well, it's okay to sell it for above retail by an opinionated amount. It varies, but some people believe it's okay to sell it for over retail and make a profit off of it, which I think some and the other side would consider that scalping, right?
Yeah.
Personally, I believe that in a context like that, I think you can sell it for more than retail. It's maybe a little scummy, but like I'm not gonna say that you can't do it because obviously there is a fair value. I'm a business major in college. I can see things increase in value when scarcity increases, right?
Yep.
So the demand is high, the supply is low. I can understand it being $20-$30, maybe more, but there are people that are going to sell that for $100, $200 more.
Yep.
And that's where
maximum
it's
profit.
really, that's where it's crazy scalping. And that's where I have to say, personally, I don't agree with that.
So there is a philosophical element here as well. So here's an example. Okay. So we are okay with scarcity that isn't forced. So for example, if you plan ahead and say, let's say you go to a game where this is going to be the guy's 1,000th home run, and you catch that ball, you're going to keep it because it's going to increase in value over time, right?
Yeah.
And nobody says you're doing a bad thing if you sell it for a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, to some extent, obviously, it is okay to sell something for more than it was worth originally, if you keep it over time, it increases in value or whatever. Like there are situations where you can definitely sell things for more than they were originally worth, maybe, right?
There is also a, it also depends on the community that you're selling to. Like I brought up r/knife swap, right? That's where I do all my buying and selling. But if you're going on eBay, you're going to find a way higher amount of people that are going to pay those crazy scalped prices.
Right, and that's because they think
anonymous.
Yeah,
Knife Club,
it is anonymous.
Reputation on eBay. It's just you see a listed item, it's $200 more. Either you're going to buy it or you're not. Knife Club, they can tear you to pieces. Like, but they're also probably not going to pay $400 on Knife Club. So
exactly
right, and there's that element of like you put this item up for sale. Did you buy it with the intention of just scalping? Like people care about that as well.
That's what gets me. That right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, like because
I think you brought up, Brian, that you thought that they were botting, or someone brought up that they thought they were the website was being botted to get the knife as fast as they could to scalp it or something.
Right, to click faster, because I clicked pretty much as fast as humanly possible. I was at checkout, I think 19 seconds. I pressed the button and it was all gone. All 50 were gone.
Right.
I mean, it's possible people are just faster than me, obviously, but
and also I don't the website servers, there's probably a huge amount of people on there trying to click at the same time, overloading the website servers. But I do think you're on something there with saying that it was probably being botted.
And I wouldn't be surprised, because
I wouldn't be surprised.
Like there are no consequences, pretty much, and you can get a quick $200,
right?
Like for every single one that you get.
Did Cutlery Shop? I know DLT does this for sprint runs, and probably Blade HQ. But did Cutlery Shop have a you could only buy 2 knives?
1 or 2,
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so I mean that's better, I guess. I suppose
you can make multiple accounts of that.
Yeah.
Not hard.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But still, though, it's that's crazy. Crazy that whole thing happened. I can't imagine. Hopefully they'll do another run.
I think they are, because Blade HQ hasn't released them yet, and I think out of all the retailers, they're gonna have the most.
They should. They should. They'll make so much money off of it.
Oh yeah.
And that's the second question is, given the fact that secondary market prices are based on scarcity and that the original company that makes these knives isn't benefiting from those secondary prices, should we argue that Spyderco should be making more of the sprint runs that they know are going to be popular?
It depends.
Well,
if they're wanting to please their community, yes, but there may also be difficulties with the handle material. They don't work with micarta a ton, or there could be issues with crew wear. I guess it really depends on the materials being used. If they're having difficulty machining it, I could see it. Otherwise, I don't really know.
I think they could, though. I think you're onto something there, though, because you could argue, well, they are having difficulty machining it and whatnot. However, the secondary prices are skyrocketing, and you could make the argument, just like this is a whole nother topic entirely, but how the Grimsbro brothers, they priced their Norsemen and whatnot and the Rask way higher than they used to because they were so high a secondary market. So you could make the argument that Spyderco could do the same and sell more of those sprint runs. But
I mean, I think if they're gonna make more, right? Like, and they're saying they can't because the prices of like grinding or machining would be a little higher. Just incorporate that into the cost. People will be happy to pay.
What I was saying, yeah.
I pay like $250 for one for sure. But some places are selling it for MSRP, which is $320, and they're still selling out.
Yeah,
instantly. Yeah.
I think that's just gonna fall into Spyderco's ideology about the subject. I mean, I don't know, I don't know what what Eric and Sal, really thought about sprint runs and how. I don't know what their ideology is about it, So
Sal
I think
actually posted on the Spyderco forum the other day about I think it was a different color crew carta offering.
Yeah, green.
Yeah, and he kind of said, I know this is a bad time, and there was no real context given, but I'm assuming that he kind of knows, like they can tell that these are
Oh yeah, sought after.
Yeah.
Right. He did say I might be able to argue for more,
hmm
which was interesting to me because I thought he was in charge of everything.
Well,
I think so too, but
Sal's not the CEO anymore, right? It's Eric.
Yeah.
So
I just didn't
Oh,
think
that's
he would
right,
have to
it was-
argue for
I
being
can
able to
assume
make
stuff a
more
little.
of something, you know?
I mean, I don't know who is behind Spyderco's, like design, production, going into production team. I don't know who's,
Yeah.
it may not be. I kind of doubt it's going to be, Eric, who's like, okay, um, we're making those shaman sprint runs. He might be above that. It might be someone else in a kind of product level part of
Yeah.
who knows? I don't know much about their business hierarchy, but I think we're kind of lingering on this topic. I think we should probably segue into another knife news topic. So
Like the
Okay.
shaman.
I think next up
Not
is
shaman,
the
Shamwari.
production Shamwari.
yes.
Why not
Um,
re-up? Why not re-up? Please.
I don't know
Please.
what's the problem with it being we and not Riot. I'm not. I
I don't know.
understand.
From my experience, I just think Rio has better fit and finish, but the thing is, I understand why they use Wii because they could put more
Is that-
out.
Is
Yeah.
that true though? Because I've felt like I've seen people complain a lot about Riot's fit and finish.
Like I can only
especially in
speak
the
for
Discord.
myself.
Well, okay, so I can't speak for myself because I haven't owned a Riot, but I have seen people like people in the Discord, specifically the Asian Mongoose, naming names, but he's a good guy. He has he likes Riots, right? And he has reached out to a god, one of the like Blade HQ or someone like that, Indiana
Yeah.
Knives. I don't remember, whoever was a seller. He's looking at a third party seller, and they had him like 4 different Riots, I think, and he could find blemishes in all of them, right? But I don't know. It depends. With we making the production Shamwaris, I've heard there's been a variety of different kind of quality control with Wii knives, like production runs of other companies' knives, other designs, right?
Yeah.
Wii seems like the go-to for a lot of designers nowadays, because it's kind of that mix between pretty good fit and finish from my experience with the ones I have, and semi-affordability.
Right.
If you went with Riot, it's probably going to be more expensive. Just generalizing there.
That's
But,
exactly
It is 100% the price. I think Matt I don't know how to pronounce the last name, Degnan.
Yep.
For the Weenar. Yeah, he was saying that he really wanted the price to be at a certain point, right?
It's got to
And
be
you're not going to get that.
price.
Right, you're not going to get $200
No.
for Riot. Like, just not
No.
going to happen.
I think Riot's more
yeah.
exclusive. I mean, you don't see. Look at what Wii's doing. Wii's got a whole budget line, with Civivi. Like they
I don't think Riot would ever do that.
I don't think
honestly.
Riot has that. I don't think they are that big of a company.
Yeah. Last time I checked, we had over 200 employees, and Riot has like 30. So that's the hugest difference.
Yeah, and I think for the average person, Wii is probably better in terms of price and acceptable fit and finish. For me personally, I would prefer Riot because I'm willing to pay a little more for what I consider to be the type of quality that I want. I'm willing to pay more for the fact that the blades are hand ground, and so it preserves the heat treat. So things like that are important.
Honestly, we have to talk about what an exciting thing it is to have a production Shamwari, because that is such a sought after knife in the community, in the people that want customs. Shamwari.
It's like the first custom I wanted, and then I saw the aftermarket price, and there's realistically there's no way.
Yeah, you're like, that's never gonna happen.
I mean, to put it this way, the Crew Carta secondary market is a joke compared to the Shamwari secondary market.
It's not even close.
For a production Shamwari, I mean, that's fantastic for someone that just wants to have the design, that they love looking at, and especially for someone that wants to have a higher end front flipper, I have the Metamorph, the Real Steel Metamorph. It's my first front flipper, and like
it's a great one though.
I never was really interested in front flippers before this, and now I'm like, wow, I really kind of want another front flipper, you know. And I think something like this is a great option for someone that's looking for that higher end. Do we know the price on the production chamois yet?
I've heard
Under
250.
300. Yeah, that's all.
Well, that's fantastic though, you know, for for what a chamois usually goes
Yeah.
for.
Do you want to spend $2K or $250?
Exactly.
Question.
You're not obviously you're not going to get the the what you're going to get from a custom maker, but you are going to get something that I would say will suffice.
And
Well,
yeah,
I've heard they're only making a few hundred of them, which is it's a little concerning to me. Possibly because of the timing with Crew Carta as it is.
Uh-huh.
I feel like there's a lot of knives that have been coming out lately that are just hard to get. They're going quickly, but they're making just a few of them. And I don't
Right.
know if you guys want to touch on this at all, but with that chamois Kevin John clone coming up, I think it's a good time for him to be putting them out to offer some competition right there.
Mhm.
yep.
But I genuinely hope that they're obtainable because they're
Right.
only through his website too, I believe.
Yeah,
Oh, is
that's the biggest problem for me is directly from him. One of the never mind. He just
Am I
has-
the only one who
I know
finds
where
it
you're going.
hilarious though?
Yeah.
Like,
What?
am I the only one who finds it hilarious that part of upcoming news is a clone coming out and people are excited for that?
Well, it's because these knives, like Vex said, they're going for like $2,000, which is to
Yeah.
us, to people that are really, really into knives and are spending hundreds of dollars, that's an entirely different level. That's
No,
so
I would-
far above
I would
your
never
comfort.
spend $2,000 on a knife.
No.
No.
I would never spend $1,000. That's out of my. I would never do that. My parents, my girlfriend, they'd look at me like I was insane. You know?
You're insane.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, I'm already insane because my collection is worth over $1,000 already. You know,
Yeah.
but I could
Oh,
not.
God.
I could. Jacob's like, oh crap.
I'm looking over it. I recently got a new knife case where I like it, but I have my collection kind of on display now. And as you're saying that, I'm looking over and I'm just like, I could pay off like every bit of debt
No,
that I have right
no,
now.
Yeah, no. Well, but you get what I'm saying, you know.
Yeah.
It's still, think about it, man. A chamois, like, think about how big of a chunk of your collection that would be, right? Like,
That would be all of my high end stuff,
Right.
basically.
Like,
And that's
if you're
usually
like,
fine.
if you own, even if you owned like, even if you owned like $20,000 worth of knives, that's a tenth of your collection. You know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Insane.
$20,000
One
worth
knife.
of knives is a lot of knives. That's
Insane.
a lot of knives.
So, and then I couldn't use it. And as I like to use my knives, you know. I know a lot, and there's another thing we can talk about is the ideology between a user and a collector, and kind of the in between, right? Like
Safe queens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like I'm in between.
Take
I
Probably a different topic though.
I'm a little bit more in between. I kind of I'm not really a safe queen type of person, but I feel like I do tend to not beat on my higher end knives as much.
That's what I do. If
Yep.
I'm not going to beat the crap out of my torrent, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to leave it there and never carry
Mainly
I
because
would.
yeah. Well, you're kind of crazy, Brian. You like
Yeah, Brian
you do some
will
crazy crap. You I mean, I saw that
stress
rowdy.
me out.
I mean, wow, it's just, but it's cool. What you do is amazing. I
He does
really
a real
love seeing.
service for the community, honestly.
No, like seeing that bug out. You kind of changed. I mean, that wasn't crazy, but you do some crazy stuff, and I love it. You know.
It's
else
it's
to
good
do with
information
it?
sometimes.
it really is. If anyone's listening and they haven't checked out Brian's channel, go look. He talks a lot about like more of like the cutting performance of knives and stuff so far, but it's genuine interesting stuff.
Right. What I do want to point out is Brian is Transparent Knives. It's
Yes.
his
Oh, God.
business. That is his business. That is his YouTube. That is, I believe, that's his Reddit.
Yeah,
username
yeah.
as well. Transparent Knives. And you should go into why your name is Transparent Knives. By the way, really quickly.
Oh yeah, I actually completely forgot to introduce myself. I just said I'm a maker. And I
He's a
moved
maker,
on.
yeah.
So I am Transparent Knives. The name comes from not the knives being see-through, because I get that comment all the time. Like I can see your knives though. No, it's Transparent Knives because I try to be transparent about my process. So everything from like, the materials to how much I'm working, how much I value my labor at per hour. That all gets put in a summary and a price breakdown. And so the pricing is transparent, and that's why I call it Transparent Knives. And part of that, that was the initial reasoning behind the name, but I've extended that to everything else I do. So now on my YouTube channel, where you can see the lowest quality videos in your life, what you can see is like I show the testing behind all my decisions, like why I choose to grind my knives thin, why I choose like each hardness for each steel, like the testing that goes behind that. So I think when people can see all the things that go into a knife and all the decisions being thought about, it's a lot cooler. I especially got that impression. I'm not going to go into detail on this, but literally yesterday I went to California Custom Knife Show. I'm not going to name names, but I talked to some makers and they couldn't tell me what the geometry of their knife was. They couldn't tell me what the heat treat of their knife was. And I was like, those are all things that are directly related to performance. So not
It's
only
alarming.
should you know it, you should tell other people that information openly, right?
Right.
Exactly.
If they're gonna drop $1,000 on your knife, you should, at least you should know that information, right? But
yeah, that's I think that's perfectly, like you're liable to tell your customer that information. I mean, why wouldn't you know?
Why would you make any other tool and not talk about, the technical specifications behind?
Right, exactly.
Doesn't make any sense.
right. So, but yeah, that's why I'm named Transparent Knives. I'm just trying to be transparent about all things, even the bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know Brian doesn't want to plug himself, but he makes some beautiful, fantastic knives. He has a website. It's like, I believe it's transparentknives.com. So you can go check that out and just look at his amazing work, really.
He's actually going to be my first custom knife. So I'm super, super excited about it.
I mean,
and getting to see his process and him talk about the stuff he does on YouTube
Yeah.
while knowing that I'm going to like get something from him. It's really cool.
and the prices are fantastic.
Oh yeah. They're amazing.
Yeah.
I
So
honestly don't know how he does it.
it's and yeah,
but
and also if you want to talk to Brian, you can join our Discord, the Knife Club
Do it.
Discord. It's on r/Knife Club. So you can talk to all of us there. Just so you know.
Oh, we need to note that you have to use the old Reddit, not the new Reddit, because if you use the old Reddit, the link won't work. So
Or if you use new Reddit, the link won't work.
oh, sorry, yeah, the new Reddit, the link won't work. The old Reddit, the link does work. So
I do
yeah.
not know why that is. It's some
Which begs the
Reddit-
question: why are you using the new Reddit in the first place? Like,
yeah.
stop doing that.
But okay, let's segue into maybe let's see. Maybe then, do you want to talk about the triple aught design Dauntless?
Let's skip it and go to the Pena one. That one's kind of interesting. To me,
Okay,
actually.
okay. The Cutlery Shop Pena Production Front Flipper Trapper. Wait, is that right?
Oh, is it by Cutlery Shop?
I don't.
I didn't think
Oh
it's
no, I wrote Cutlery
sorry.
Shop for.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
So we don't know who's selling it yet. We
Sorry,
don't know who's selling it
that's
yet.
my
Yeah.
fault. It may be. Sorry, that's
Yeah,
my
so
fault. I was reading it side by side on my my document. That's my fault.
Oh, okay.
So
So it's the Pena Production Front Flipper Trapper by Enrique Pena. We know who's making that yet?
Yeah.
Oh, Riyadh's making it. Okay,
Yep.
well that's even more exciting because well, there's a couple of things that make it exciting. The first is that Riyadh does some really nice material finishing.
Mhm.
Okay, so and this is not a knock on Enrique Pena at all because what he does perfectly, right? So I handled one of his customs. They were about 850 at the show, and it was in micarta, and they were perfectly flush, hand sanded perfectly. The thing is, though, a lot of people don't. It looks good in pictures, but a lot of people don't like how that feels because it feels very slick. There's no texture.
Mhm.
And so what Riyadh does is they're known for having some pretty nice micarta. It has some nice texture while also still being flush, etc. And so it's possible that the production could actually feel nicer in hand than the custom, which is really exciting. And I also tried out that front flipper action. It's sort of like an interesting looking, front flipper design, but what's unique about it to me is that I've tried so many front flippers by now. It's the only one that is very easy to actuate with your thumb and your index finger, like both ways, just no effort, no need to change your grip or anything. So the design is really good, the size is really good, and if it's Riyadh, the quality is likely going to be very good as well. So
The only thing I'm dreading at this point is if you go back and look at the prototypes from Blade Show this year, because I've been obsessing about this knife for a while. There's nothing really on the blade. Of course, there's going to be Maker's Mark and stuff like that. I knew that, but he's added a nail nick to it, and it's
what?
A nail
Yeah.
nick.
Why?
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
It
Someone
makes it look so
linked
busy.
that. Someone linked that in the Discord recently, didn't they? Or
Yes.
Vex has linked
Oh, there
it
it
in our
is.
Yeah,
chat.
but
Um,
it just kills the look of the blade to me.
I don't know.
I
I'm not really. I don't really care. I mean, I guess I'm not as picky as some people, but it's.
I don't care about it like cutting performance wise. People talk about getting snagged. I don't care.
Oh,
about
well,
that.
Wait,
It doesn't
well, you're
affect
saying
my-
it. You were saying
Yeah.
aesthetically you don't like it, which.
Yes, that's
Um,
what bothers me.
Well, I
it's
think
an
maybe he
all
must be
like that.
listening to a complaint about maybe someone complained about it was hard to front flip or something. I mean,
It's
I
made
know.
to be a front flipper. That's what I don't get.
Well,
I think
you know,
he chose aesthetically to put it on just because it looks like a traditional to begin with.
it
That's
does look
true.
like a traditional. Yeah, I agree with that. I was thinking the only reason I thought maybe because someone complained was because it reminds me of just 2 days ago I was sitting with my girlfriend and I was showing her my metamorph and she was like she was trying her hardest to flip this thing and I was like you just gotta flip it this way, hold it this way in kind of the crease of your palm and blah blah blah, and she was like she just couldn't get it. And I was like,
Yeah, I'm gonna
it's-
tell you right now. I'm buying this, and if it has a nail nick, I'm converting it to a harpoon so that I have no nail nick.
I might genuinely have you fix that for me because the abstruse that you sold me. Like, I love it so much. I've been cutting the crap out of everything with it. Ergonomics.
Oh,
and
yeah,
everything. It's amazing.
Yeah, basically, I
So
just
good.
removed the nail nick on the abstruse, which is also a front flipper that has a nail nick for some reason. That's by Isham.
Yep.
And it's so much more fun with it. But
The thumb ramp that you basically added into the blade, for me at least, ergonomically, is perfect.
do you
it's, amazing.
Brian, do you offer modding services?
I mean, I just mod for fun. Usually, like if people send in a knife for regrind, I'll do a mod for free.
That's crazy. Wow.
So people are just like, oh, I want this regrind, and I also want like a larger choil or a
Yeah.
harpoon shape or whatever, and I'll just be like, it takes me 2 seconds. Like it's
Right.
such an easy thing to do, so I just do it for free.
Your like mirrored stonewash is absolutely awesome.
Gosh.
It's crazy. I've never seen
so
a mirrored
good.
stonewash that looks like it does.
Yeah. Oh, quick shout out to our boy Tyler Stentz. If you look at that post on Instagram that Pena made, he's the top comment with the most likes. And he basically says, they look so good, but why the nail nick?
Dude, me
So-
and him have been talking about that. He hates it more than I do.
So he's
bad.
he's representing us. So just so you know, the Discord has power and influence. Obviously, we're everywhere. We're
For sure.
everywhere.
The Discord is getting huge now. It's over 300 members. It's crazy. I mean, I remember, when I first joined like a year and a half ago, it was like, I don't know, like 80 members or something like that, or maybe even less. And when I became moderator, I basically was like, I was sitting in class and I was like, man, I am so bored. And like Discord was dead. No one was talking in it. Everyone was doing something. So I took that time to basically advertise it on the subreddit. And as over the past since March, so it is currently October 27th 2019. Since March, it has grown over 200 members, and it's still growing really fast every day. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about it. I think I know people complained about the changes we've been making as we've been trying to find ourselves, but I think at this point in time, the Discord's really in a good place, especially in terms of server organization and channel specification and whatnot. So pretty
I'm a
happy
pretty
about it.
recent member, and I really like it. You talked about it being dead before. It's almost always active. I work
Yeah.
third shift, and even at like 4 or 5 a.m. Eastern Standard, there's people on.
It's wild, man. It's
talking and
wild.
stuff.
I know there are people that get on at like 3 a.m. and they're just talking, and it's great. It's great to see that. And it's so different than every other Discord I've ever been on. I know I'm going off kind of on a tangent, but I've been on the EDC Discord and the Chef Knives Discord, and I just haven't found a community that is as as active as ours. So it's really great. and I hope we continue to grow more because it's great to have people like all of y'all on here. It's like Brian's pretty recent, Jacob, you're pretty recent, so it's great. And Vex, you're pretty recent. I guess I'm just old,
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
a veteran.
a veteran of the Discord, but it's great. It's great. We used
Real
to.
quick, I have to go. So you guys can finish out the podcast. I have some plans I have to
Okay,
go
great.
fulfill. But it's been fun talking with you guys, and I look forward to future episodes. And
Yeah.
if you're listening to this, thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Yep.
It's great having you, Jacob. Yeah. So
Thanks, guys. Bye.
yeah.
I'll
Bye.
see you guys.
All right. See you later.
So we can round this podcast out. I think it's been going on for about 45 minutes, believe it or not. So it's been pretty long already. So we can kind of round it out and kind of do some conclusions. I think maybe Brian can, if he wants to, talk about some maker stuff, and then we can finish out with a conclusion.
Oh, well, I want to plug 2 knives really quick, though, for upcoming Knives and News. I'm not going to go into depth on them, but I just handled them both at the California Custom Knife Show. One is the Olamic Whippersnapper, which I just want to say that the front flipper tab on it is so much better than the busker, which I loved already. So if you like the busker, you will like the Whippersnapper even more. It's super comfortable. It's chamfered better than the busker as well. And I was told by what's his name again? I always forget people's name. Eugene. I was told by Eugene that it's going to be probably around $400 for the base, but the base model will have more customization options than the busker or any previous model. So,
ooh, that's nice. That's nice.
So that's one news.
I
the
love
other
that.
news is so it was all good. And the other news is I picked up a Monterey Bay EWC.
Right.
And this is this is the most fun knife I've ever handled in my life. I'm not going to say it's the most useful. It's the most fun. It's the most fidgetable. This just I don't know. I can't stop playing with it.
I'll have to. I will be posting pictures. I think in the middle of this podcast where we talk about these certain knives, and so that I think I'm going to have either you, Brian, or Jacob post this to YouTube, and it will. We can have. For those who are watching it on YouTube, they can see a picture of it. I will hopefully also include links in the description. We will include links in the description to all this stuff so you can go check it out. So, was it so cool, Brian? What's so cool about it? I haven't seen it.
So the EWC.
Yeah.
So it's actually a super simple design, a la Ray Laconico. Everything he does is just straight lines and very simple. But what I like about it is that simple is useful, right? So it's just a regular drop point blade, almost a spear point. It's M390, and this the opening and closing it is just super easy. You can open and close it I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah, I can hear it.
But that's me opening and closing it. It's the fastest opening and closing you can ever possibly do. Super easy to do one-handed, or literally one-fingered. Actually, you only need one finger to use this knife because there's no lock bar or anything to press. So yeah, and it's super thin behind the edge as well, which is something we'll get into probably in a future podcast. But just for people who are curious, it's 18 thou, which is pretty good. And yeah, the carbon fiber is some of the nicest carbon fiber pattern that I've ever seen. It has a nice groove on the show side. That's just a nice touch. The pocket clip is super good. It's one of those perfect springs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Literally the only bad thing I could say about this knife is that the butt of the handle is a little sharp. And if you just hit it with a piece of sandpaper for 2 seconds, that problem's gone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that Ray Laconico, he makes some fantastic looking knives. I really want to buy the drop keen. I know that keen. I had one of the other mods in the Discord, Samurai Jarak is his screen name. He sent me in our pass around the keen, and gosh, that was probably one of my favorite knives in recent memory. Very simple knives, I think, but very versatile. And another thing I want to go into is I do want to tell our listeners that a lot of us in the Discord, not me personally, but there are a lot of people in the Discord, including Brian, who are very particular about edge geometry. So things like
yes, yes, we are.
So measurements behind the edge is something that you're probably going to hear pretty a lot in the podcasts. And if that doesn't matter to you, that's fine. But you'll probably hear it. So yeah.
Yep, it's one of those things like just ignore it if you don't care, but if you do care, then it's just a nice measurement to hear about for people who like, go into geometry and performance and stuff like that.
That's basically, in layman's terms, it's basically slicing performance, right? Is that?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So that's basically, if it's thinner behind the edge, it's gonna slice better.
Yeah.
In very layman's terms, there's obviously a lot more that goes into it than that, including if it has a big fat, what would you call it? The spine of the blade is really fat or something. Obviously that's going to affect slicing performance, but you get the idea.
Right. And I guess we should go quickly into the knife collecting topic. We went over it a bit, right? Which is how we got into collecting.
Yeah.
But I think we should go into now that it's been some years since we all got into the hobby. I think the landscape of gateway drugs and budget knives has changed a lot.
Agreed. Yeah, I think there are a lot more options to go for in the budget market, other than CRKT, which I think a lot of people kind of jump into. But there, so it's a broader market in the budget. The budget market is broader, is what I'm trying to say, right? And there are a lot more choices and variety in what you can get for the same price. Like, now
like Civivi,
Real Steel, like
say
that again.
Rake or Ruik? I don't know how to say it.
Rake.
It's,
I think Rake. I believe is how
Rake
is how Nick Shabazz, I believe, was told. Rake. That's a great option. And CRKT too, if you want cool designs. I don't know if they're up to the snuff.
They have the best designs, but sadly they're made by them. So
yeah, but stuff like that is fantastic at the $50 mark, and even Spyderco's got some really good budget options.
So maybe we should talk about what changed. So like why the old knives aren't necessarily bad, but why this new class of budget knives is like sort of becoming more popular. It's like, more of the way people are getting into it nowadays, I think.
Well, I mean, I think the market's just there. I think the demand's there. I mean, look at how well knives like the cheaper, I mean, this is a little bit higher end of budget, but the cheaper lightweight Para 3 sold. I mean, people like cheaper knives, and look how good Civivis sell.
I think it's mostly the what's it called? Well, there's a lot of things, obviously, but I think it's mostly the materials and the looks.
Right. They look good. People raised their standards, I think. I
think Os 8 doesn't sell very well anymore.
Right. And I think that's another thing to point out is that I think that, maybe manufacturers realize that, things like, I think D2 probably is just cheap to use, and put in cheaper knives. I mean, I don't know about how much D2 costs. You might, Brian, but I think it's just
D2 is a little bit more expensive than the 9CR and stuff like that. Actually, it's just that people associate it with better performance because reviewers say it. Now we could argue about that some other time on how good D2 actually is. But it's definitely a step above 8CR and stuff like that. And 440C, Os 8. Right. It's better than all of those for sure.
Well, I think stuff like 14C28. Wait, how is that? What is it?
Yeah, 14C28.
Yeah. I think that steel is one of the better budget steels.
It's amazing for the price.
Yeah,
I think it's the best actually at that price. I think it's the best.
And also this metamorph, which I got, which was $50 off of one of the other mods. So I think it's 60.
N690. Yeah,
N690, which is a great budget steel, I'd say. Nitrogen.
It's a bowler steel, so it's a high steel.
You know what people don't realize is that N690 is basically just VG10 but better.
Yeah.
It takes a nice finish and it's tough. It's a great steel.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's important to note is that when you look at some of the VG10 Spydercos that are more expensive than the N690 Metamorph, which has better handle materials as well, it's like it's the budget category is definitely becoming more competitive, and I think we're noticing that companies like Spyderco are actually starting to go more toward the high end and sort of leave it behind. Like I think they're giving up on the budget end because of these Chinese companies.
Well, I think I mean, I don't know. Spyderco still has that bird. I don't know if they're still releasing new knives in the bird brand.
Well, bird I count as Chinese. So.
Well, it's owned by Spyderco, just like how Civivi is technically a subset of We. Bird is a subset of Spyderco, so we have to take that into account.
Right. I guess non-Chinese is just not possible in the budget range though anymore.
Yeah, it's gonna be really hard. Kershaw, I think they kind of stand up to it just because the name they have. Yeah, but everyone knows who Kershaw is.
There is still a lot of Chinese Kershaws,
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
I will like to, I know there's been this, political stuff going on. I'm very curious to see how it affects any of the Chinese makers and manufacturers and see, what happens. I don't even know what's going on. I just know things are going on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I don't think that's a topic for this podcast, but it is something.
It's definitely going to affect them, I think, to some degree.
Mm-hmm. But it's something to take note of. Yeah. So I think we should probably start wrapping it up with conclusions. We're at about 56 and a half minutes right now, so I think that's a perfect time to start wrapping up our podcast. So, is there anything you want to talk about in conclusions?
I think, well, obviously we should note that, the format of this episode is going to be different.
This is an atypical podcast. Yes, this is, we spent a lot of time on talking about ourselves, this podcast.
Right, which is normally not going to happen. It's normally going to be, we'll be talking really quick, bang out the news, go in depth on a knife collecting topic, maybe do a knife making topic. And if we have a guest, do a guest topic. That would be a longer episode, obviously, because we have to make time for the guest.
Yes.
Another thing is we'll probably answer, I think we want more questions, obviously, before we do like a question section.
Yes.
So we'll collect up, once we think we have enough questions to do a section about that, we'll add that. Right. So an older question might have to wait a while until we get more questions and do those all at once.
Yes, and I've even been kind of throwing around the idea in my head of making a Behind the Edge pod Twitter and Behind the Edge pod Instagram to kind of maybe get people asking questions about us. So keep that in the back of your heads to listeners. So that might be listed somewhere if we get that going. So
yeah, and also we should do questions as well, right? Like an email for questions.
Yes, I'm gonna make an email.
Okay.
So additionally, you can also find us in the Knife Club Discord, which is on r/Knife Club in the sidebar of the old Reddit version. You can click that and you will get a join link from me. You will click that join link, accept the rules, make sure you have an email verification for your Discord, and you'll be able to talk with us. You can @ me or @ Transparent Knives Brian or @ Vex and @ Jacob, and you can talk to all of us and discuss your views about the podcast and give us suggestions and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, we'd love to hear any upcoming news you've heard about. Not even just questions. If you want to suggest topics too, we're all ears. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So yeah, it's been great doing this podcast with you guys. It's been a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed hosting it. I look forward to it next time. I believe we will be doing it every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the podcast will be recorded. I've been kind of throwing around the idea of maybe doing a live broadcast every now and then because I have the capabilities to do that. So we could do that at some point, but if not, it will be uploaded to YouTube and hopefully some other podcast places. Like
we'll definitely let you know if we get it onto Apple Podcast or whatever, or Spotify. If it's possible, we'll do it. So
yeah, I'll make it my mission. So we will get this all settled out. But this was just a great intro episode to learn more about us and kind of set the stepping stones for the podcast. So all right, well, thank you all for joining us, and I hope you all have a great day.